Sure. Bashemte. I'm Calum Traveler. And we're dealing with, yeah, we're dealing with our age file being well outside the fog range. Let's see, properties. Where's the fog range? Ah, here we go, clip. Let's just throw a couple more zeros in there. Yeah. And now we don't get that clipping. Okay, so, as you can see, I have seriously built up this cave area by a bit. In fact, you'll notice I've put in a ceiling. And something about that ceiling you'll notice is that it's very broken up, and it is not complete yet either, but it is a very broken up ceiling, and leaving it like that, it seems implausible that it'd be able to hold itself up so far as it is. So, one of the things we will be doing today is boop, create, oops, that was not what I wanted to do. I did not want a cone, I wanted a cylinder. Yeah. Now, I'm making this rough, you know, I'm not looking for, you know, realism here just yet. Oops. I made that way too tall. Yeah, I'm not looking for realism just yet. I'm looking to get this roughly centered. Maybe a couple of these roughly centered where I want them to be. Oh, object edit mode, select this face. Now, I'm sure I've covered it in a previous video, but in case I haven't, what you see here are these, when I have something selected, an object or a face, you'll see that at its focal point, at its center point of that particular thing, there's this little cursor with the three little X, Y, Z axes. If I grab the red, it'll move it in the red direction. If I grab it, it'll move it back. If I move green, move it back and forth. If I grab blue, yep, that just stretches it upward. Yeah, so that's basically the trick to this. Is, you know, just make it so that it's, you know, kind of, that it's doing its job somewhat. Just make it so that just grab those points and grab them, and yeah. I figured that's been kind of self-explanatory if I haven't explained it already, but I figured I would explain it again here in case people were a little confused. Yeah, so now if we look through our view here, yeah, you'll notice that we've got that pillar now. It might not be where it's final gonna be, but you know, it will do for the moment. I'm gonna tools and duplicate it. I am literally going through this with legitimately no real idea of what I'm gonna be doing today. You know, because I'm just, you know, roughly mouse shaping that, you know, stretching it out a bit so it's not quite a perfect cylinder. I'm just doing this by the seat of my pants, like I tend to do some days. Now, having a support pillar there, that is, ooh, yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna duplicate another. And let's get you about here. Ooh. Yep, that went down way further than I thought it would. in object edit mode, select the face, and just bring it on up. So, this room, fissuring. Yeah. You'll notice that there's a lot of gappy bits here. Like, oof, you look up and you see through to the sky. That is going to be very, very compelling once we get this, textured up. Well, once we get the day-night cycle running, I mean. Sorry, I literally am sleepy and stumbling over my words more than usual. So, my apologies for that. You know, my technique for doing this is just grabbing planes, smushing them down, stretching them out, moving them where I feel they are best fit for a scene. In fact, I'm going to grab you, move you out. Yeah, there we go. Get you level. And I'll go with my knife tool. Come on. Come in with my knife tool. Select here. Here. Raise that up a bit. And there we go. Get your face. And you'll notice that I'm having issue with my thing lining up right, because I am having to, because it's trying to, when I'm looking down from above, it's trying to select the nodes that are below me. So I have to kind of look at it sideways for these upper bits to get it to select onto the nodes that I want it to select onto. Which, yes, is a little frustrating, but only so much I can do about what Blender decides it wants to do. Of course it didn't work. Okay. Try. Oops. Okay, so, that is the spin tool. That will take any selected faces you've done, and it will, spin them out in a direction, which, well, fancy. Not what I wanted. See, the knife doesn't want to quite select a node here. Come on. Yep. Okay, well, I guess I can't really select this plane to do that, so I'm gonna subdivide it. Yeah, that does the trick. Yeah, I've got no real plan for today's episode. I'm just freeforming it. And that is okay. That is perfectly okay. Because doing age modeling is all about the zen of it. And that is really all there is to say on the matter, because really that is all there is to say on the matter. This is, when you're doing this, you know, you don't treat this as a serious project. As soon as you start treating this as a serious project, you're gonna start worrying about all sorts of things, and trust me, it's gonna be a lot more fun for you, and a lot more fun for the end result, if you're doing this for the fun of it. I mean, yes, of course, you can make a job out of it, you know. I'm not denying that, but for when you're just starting out, you know, don't get in your head that you've got to do everything perfectly. Don't, you know, see about making the world that you want to make and just make it. Don't worry so much about if it's going to be perfect. Don't worry so much about if your texture seams are lining up right. Don't worry about doing everything in the first try. Don't worry about making everything perfect in the first try. Because 9 times out of 10, you're never going to get something perfect on the first try. I mean, if I always got everything perfect on the first try, well, I don't know where I'd be, but it certainly wouldn't be here. I'm only here doing this because, you know, I took some time to get here. I did not come up with this, doing this, because I was here on the first try. If we got everything perfect on the first try, well, to quote Steven Universe, if every pork chop was perfect, we wouldn't have hot dogs. And I know that's a weird quote for some people, but it very much does ring true here and now, in this moment. Extrude region upwards, yeah. So you'll notice that we've got some major height differences here. We've got all of this going right up top, and then all of this that's a little bit lower. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that. And how are we going to get to that? Boop. Control, select. Control, select. Extrude region. That's how we're going to do it. Extrude region. Oop. Now we've got some clip in there, so let's pull this back. Extrude region. Pull this forward now. You'll notice the goal here is kind of making these shaft areas where sunlight can pour through from above. Yep, that is basically what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to, and you don't have to leave this, you know, perfectly even as you extrude it upwards either. You can hit your scale button, that's the S key, and extrude it out. You can even stretch it in specific directions, you know. The XYZ axes are your friends. Oh, but now we've got clipping over here. So I'm just gonna select those frames. Delete the face. Grab this. Oop, wrong point. Grab this. Stretch it back in there. Face. Let's grab you, pull you back in. There, I don't even have to cut those now. Now you'll notice this has some really weird shaping, and that's okay. That is perfectly okay. And the whole point of age building, you know, as a hobby, is to make things that you want to see, to make the worlds you want to visit. This is, you know, this is the digital equivalent of the in-universe art. We are creating things from our imaginations here. We're designing these areas, and, you know, we are just following our whims. We are making, we are just making whatever we want as we feel the flow of it. That's really just the point of this. Once you get in a groove of knowing what you're doing and knowing what you want to do for a thing, then you can just get in the pattern of doing it. Yeah, I may have pulled that forward a bit too much. Let's pull that back a bit and... there we go. That feels like a natural sort of fissured bit of rock that's about to collapse at any given point. So, I'm only going to keep this face here to twist it. So I can pull that back. Yep. Twist it, pull it back. Okay, now I've got this face. And I don't want to keep this face here for exactly forever. So I'm going to extrude the region. Extrude the region. Yeah, it's been funky there, but that's alright. See, now we have this little sharp divide here, and we don't need these faces. Delete faces. There we go. Now I've got that little sharp bit of rock there extruding out, and if we need to, we can extrude the faces more. So, I'm going to delete that face too, because if we do ever need it, we can just grab the edges. Yeah. Ooh, that's gonna look pretty. So pretty. Yeah, now this is looking like a little mismatched, isn't it? Yep. So I'm gonna come along here. Select. Here's this node. And I'm gonna come up here. Select this one. Oh, no, see. That's where Blender decided to do something weird and didn't follow the obvious path. And now we can do this. There we go. Ah. There we go. That's looking tunnely. And now we're just going to repeat that same process over on this side and extrude the region. And there, now we've got sort of a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Now I'm actually going to just carry on and make sure that all of our tops in this particular area are, roughly about the same height. They don't have to be, of course, but yeah, there we go. Now I'll reset it for the UV, and if I switch back to material, now we've got this dark cave here. We've got these support pillars in here. Things are looking pretty good. I've also come in over here and I've extended up the wall by a bit. I've solidified the pod collisions, so now we can actually walk in there if we want to. And in fact, I think we will. Save. Export. There we go. Now you notice this age is taking longer and longer to export. The more I throw into it, the more textures, the more modifications, the more everything. And hey, you'll notice that I've made this water texture transparent now. Yeah. This is not the final water texture. I will do a more proper thing on water later down the road. But yeah, now we can actually see through the water. Yeah, let's get through our pod. Woohoo! We can walk along the wall now. I've not actually made that back wall solid yet. So, oops. Yep, I actually need to make that solid. I did not realize I could do that. That was a bounce loop, so, yeah. And I'm gonna have to, you know, put in a better floor ramp here. We can actually see through the ground here. I still have a bit of cleanup work to do in this area, but, yeah, we're getting there. We're getting along. We have an interior of the pod that we can walk around in now. I've also temporarily sealed over the top of this cliff edge. I will be getting back to you know, modeling more of this later. Yeah, as you can see, our cliff face is getting pretty tall there. Lots of stretchy textures. I am not going through and fixing those just yet. I've done a lot of fixing already, and it's just, after, you know, it's a thing that you really can do just in your own time, off cam. And I've done it off camera for a lot of it, but it's a different kind of zen to the actual modeling, because, you know, fixing the textures is, you know, it's something different than just, you know, than just being able to, you know, model the world. And I'm realizing now that I forgot to enable those support pillars. Whoops. Yeah, so those are supposed to be here. Those are not. But if you look up and you see how the darkness above, now it kind of casts this light through, and you see the ceiling. Yeah. Look at that. Look at that. That is unstable looking, and that is... oh, that is going to be so, so pretty. And once we get the day-night cycle going in here, that's gonna be so cool. The little gaps of light streaming through in here. Oh yeah. Now, something I did not quite cover when my remodeling is I put in a little tunnel over here. Where it goes to yet, I don't know. I haven't decided that yet. But as you can see, we've got a fissure in here. Whee! And it's a tunnel, and it goes somewhere, and yeah. But yeah, I'm liking how this looks in here. I'm liking this. I'm liking it a lot. And it feels properly like it's crumbling apart in places. You can probably shove a few chunks of debris over here along this shelf underneath where the cracks are at some point, as far as thoughts go for adding things. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. Seriously, get right here. If you have the sun going overhead, or you have the stars shining through, just the visual of all of that coming through from above is gonna be really sweet. So you'll notice that I have these cliffs kind of, you know, differently modeled off at different heights. So you notice that this one cliff just sort of ends that's the top of it, whereas the other one kind of goes up more. And you'll see how the shadows just kind of play off of each other differently. Like, you've got the sharp line there, but then you've got the kind of curve to it on the other side. It gives off a whole other kind of experience. And yeah, I've got some weird shadowing there. I'll have to deal with that. chicken bones under there. Okay, so what else are we going to do today? What we're going to do is we're going to make a small network of land bridges between these support pillars. We might continue that off in another direction somewhere. Well, first things first, actually. To extrude a brief region upwards, and then I'm going to select the line around at the top of our pillar here. Why am I selecting just the line? Well, because I'm going to give us some ground to stand on following this out. So if I have this, and then I go, yeah, there we go. Now that works. Now if I take this and I lower it down, we kind of have this sort of rough slopey shape. And then if I go extrude upwards, and I can stretch it out a bit. And extrude, stretch it out a bit. Or I can narrow it down a bit. Yeah. And then when I'm, done with this, it'll have this kind of rough, this kind of stalagmite kind of shape to it. Especially if I then go, extrude region, and I start sloping it outwards now. Extrude region, slope it outwards a bit. Extrude region, stretch it outwards a bit. Extrude region. Now we're clipping through. Extrude it out a bit. There we go. And now we have a sort of rough, sort of shape for this. I'm going to select it. I'm going to hit cylinder projection instead of resetting. Well, actually, I'm going to reset it, then I'm going to hit cylinder projection. What does that look like? Well, that kind of looks like this. It looks all spirally, and it's not the prettiest. But temp texture. This is not the permanent texture. These are not the permanent textures in this cave that I'm doing. I'm just temp texturing them so that we have something to see, when we come in and we, when we do our thing. I'm not sure I'm going to do a different technique this time. Rather than select all those faces, I'm just going to shrink it in, and then I'm going to bring it down. And then I'm going to extrude upwards. Yeah, there we go. You see, we accomplished basically the same thing we did over there, but I did it with less effort this time. That's the trick to doing these things iteratively. Once you start doing a thing and you start gathering up your tool base of how you're doing these things, you can start to kind of piece together how to do fancier tricks. You're like, well, what if I do this? What if I do that? What if? Your what ifs are gonna start, we're gonna start basically, they're gonna start. Your what ifs are gonna basically become your, how do I learn a trick? What tricks am I learning? What am I gonna be making? How am I gonna be making it? What? Ooh, actually, if I just pull that upwards a bit more, there we go. Now we got it through this pillar there. Yeah. And now we've got two of these things. Now that I have two of these things, how exactly am I going to make a land bridge? Well, I'm going to select some faces here. I'm going to select these faces. Generally in the direction of the place we want to go to. Just select these 5 faces. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come off with my knife under the water. Yeah, the knife is choosing to be finicky today. I don't know why. There we go. Yeah, we just gave it a little... Now, you notice that when I did it in a straight line, but because I was looking at it from an angle, it made it curved. That's the kind of thing we want to see. I'm going to select these three faces here now. And the reason I'm only selecting those three faces is, now that I extrude the region out, aha, you'll see that it kind of, nope, actually wasn't, I didn't want to extrude that just yet. I want to, I want to select just the lines up here first, and then I want to drag it out a bit. And now you'll see how that kind of slopes the texturing, slopes the modeling on that a bit. Yeah, that's what we're after, basically. Just grabbing points and trying to make this look a bit more, natural looking. And now I can select these faces. Actually, I might need to... Yeah, I'm going to need to cut this more. So I'm going to come up with my knife. I'm going to go... Select. Come on. It's trying to do something weird where it's trying to connect with the vertices on the clear on the other side of the model for some reason. I don't know why it's doing that. Come on. I only have these three faces selected. Knife. There we go. Now if I go back and I select this vertex and I stretch it forwards, yeah, you see how that's kind of working now. But now I can actually go and select the faces I want to select and extrude the region. And you'll notice that I did something weird down here, which is okay. I go and I select my points. And I then drag it down, stretch it out a bit, drag it down a bit, and now it starts to get that kind of arched shape to it. You'll see how it's kind of arching out like that? Yeah. And yes, that is a sideways pillar. I do not care that it is at an angle. And you want to know why? Because when we look at this in the water, with a water angle and such, it's, it's gonna look like, the water is warping the perspective a bit. At least that's my intent. Whether or not it actually comes out like that is another story entirely. But we deal with the hands we're dealt as we do them. I'm going to select these faces again. You can drag it up a bit more. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to extrude it out. Then I'm going to shrink it down, bring it up. And yeah, there we go. Now, you'll notice that I did all that scaling, and earlier, you may remember I said, scaling can be tricky and Blender will throw a fit. So we are going to end up seeing, in real time, if my scaling there caused Blender to throw a fit or not. Well, at least caused it to throw a fit when modeling this. So I'm going to just kind of smooth this shape up a bit, make it not quite so even, because water's worn away at this, and it's kind of got an archy shape to it. Now, you'll notice I'm not bridging the connection over here. I'm going to build another bridge, and I'm going to try and make them connect together. But first things first, I want to actually see how much of a, how much of a thing, and let's name this, port spire 1, and this will be port spire 2, and this will be port spire 3. Yep, that works. And yep, I will indeed set that to waterfall case. Now, one other thing that I've probably shown but not touched on is plasma modifiers. If you do not check this flag, plasma object, and set a page, your object will not load into the age. And if you do not add a modifier once it's active for collision, you will not get your modeling in here. Now, what is the difference between convex hull and triangle mesh? Well, triangle mesh is going to make your collisions based on the faces of the model. Convex hull is going to make a cylindrical collision or a box-like collision based around the furthest edges of the vertices. So you see these little edges here, if I go into the game with this object set to convex hull, it's going to have a little collision line going like here in a line. It's going to have another collision line going straight up in a line to this point, and it's going to have another line going up alongside it. It's basically going to give me floaty bits, and I don't want floaty bits. I want this to be a triangle mesh. Because a triangle mesh is a bit of ground. And ground is what we're after here. So, now that I've gone through this, let's save. Let's export the age. And pray I did it right, because if I did it wrong, then we're going to have to redo stuff, and I'm not sure I have the energy to redo that stuff right now. Now, at this point, you're realizing, man, it sure is tiring having to fly all this way through all of this right now, isn't it? And yes, you are right. It is very tiring to fly through all of this. And we will rectify that soon. Now, you'll notice the difference right away between flat shading and smooth shading. Flat shading shades based on the faces. Smooth shading kind of blurs gradients a bit. And yeah, that looks wholly artificial. Like, wow, that's artificial looking. This looks a little more organic, but it's still very flat looking. But we're not worrying about the looks at the moment. We're worrying about our collisions. Yep. That's what I thought. No. This is what I meant by Blender would throw a fit. My object is solid on the wrong side. It is solid on the inside. My objects are solid on the inside. And that is, yep. So, yeah, so negative scaling is a thing. So, both of these objects were, borked. Very, very borked. If I go into this object, I go edit mode, and I turn on my normal faces, you'll see that all my faces are supposedly pointing outwards. Well, they're not. Object mode, Control A, scale, and you'll see now that when I edit mode, you'll see all my stuff is flipped around actually I've now fixed the scaling issue by doing that. You know, but now my objects are going to visually be inside out, and I don't want them to be visually inside out. Oh, how am I going to do this? Well, there's a few tricks to that. Basically, basically we go into shading UVs, and we're going to recalculate our normals. And just to make sure that we did it right, yep. Control A, scale, and now if I go back into object edit mode, all my faces are still outside. So we'll go to here, edit mode, and again, I've already, done my thing. I flipped them. Object mode. Yep. So when you're dealing with scaling objects, the thing you ought to keep in mind is, if you're in your edit mode and you're not sure that you got your normal faces right, well, object mode, Control A, hit scale. And yep, I had it backwards. Because, see, Blender doesn't like it when you scale things sometimes. And also, sometimes I literally spawned an object and it gets in this weird kind of mood. But, recalculate. And now, object mode. Now, if I go in and export this again, and this time I'm going to make these have smooth shading for the contrast of what we saw earlier. Yeah, there we go. That's already looking better. Save. Export. This inverted scale issue, this negative scale issue is something I've been dealing with since I first started learning how to make ages in Blender. It is very frustrating when you do the same fixes again and again and get no results. Yeah, okay, this is looking better. Yeah, this is looking better. Okay. Moment of truth. Hoop! Yay! I hit it! I hit it! Yay! I hit it. And now, bump. Yeah, baby. There we go. It's solid. It's solid. It's solid. And now, let's see if I can make this jump. Oof! Oh yeah, I made it. Oh yeah, that is good. Okay. Okay, we've got the jump in there. We've got that working. Yeah, you see what we got going on here is a basic case of the top of the object is getting shading from things that it should not be getting shading from. There's a couple of ways we can probably fix with that. So we're going to mess around with those in the remaining time we have. Let's come out here and we'll see. Yep, we've got the top of the pillars being kind of shady looking. Yes, that was a pun. Sorry. Tools. Let's, how am I gonna do this? Well, first and foremost, the first idea that comes to mind is I can just delete the face. And then but I'm not gonna do that just yet. Do I dare want to mess with scaling on this particular face again? Sure, why not? Let's stretch it out flat there. That should make it so that the lighting is gonna be... That should make it so the lighting is not gonna hit the edges of that. But just in case I did screw that up, we now know our technique to fix it. Yep. Our technique, our good good friend. Object mode. Control A. Scale. Object. Edit mode. Oop, nope. We want to be in object mode for this. Remember, we want to be in object mode, not edit mode. Control A. Scale. Object. Yep. And now, if I go back into the game, and you know what? While I'm on this, we're going to do this. We are gonna, yep, let's, okay, let's go here, and we're gonna repeat what we did before. We're gonna create an empty object. An empty object can be anything we want it to be. Plasma modifier, waterfall caves. We're gonna set this to a spawn point, and now we're gonna name this link in point waterfall caves. And now we've added a second link in point. We now have link in point default. The first link in point you make in an age should always be link in point default. Even if you're going to set up a different link in, whatever your main link in point, the one that you want to be the first one that people go to, that always needs to be named link in point default, spelled capital L. Yeah, I'm just actually going to put it on the screen right here. Right about here. Link in point default. You want that to be named link in point default. Then you can name your other link in points, link in point whatever, Of course, it doesn't have to be link in point whatever, It can be, but it can be whatever you want it to be. Now, when I launch the age, here is your first Python internal URU console command. Plasma, Python, whatever. Hit the tilde key on US QWERTY keyboards. That's right next to the one above the tab key. And it'll bring down this thing. There are other commands for other keyboard settings. I'm not quite sure what those are. I will check for those later. But anyway, so we're going to type in avatar spawn next. And would you watch our camera view swoosh through the age? Looky. Now we're in our cave. And let's look up. And boom. Boom, 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 boom. The shading is now not being weird along the top. And it looks like it's naturally blending in with the age. Oh, that is perfect. Okay, well, that was an adventure in negative scaling and why it's important to avoid using the scale tool as often as possible. And when you do use the scale tool, remember the trick. Control A scale. Control A scale. That is what you need to remember for your trick, for getting rid of scaling. That's gone weird. That corner up there is a little squarish. I may adjust it a bit. But, okay. I think that's going to about do it for today. Thank you very much for watching me ramble on for an hour and deal with an issue. Scaling. It's a very scaly issue that's very scalesome. I'm sorry for the puns. They're bad. I'm wincing even just saying them. Thank you for watching. Shora Bashimte.